So now here we have a circuit that I put together. We have LEDs illustrating the output. Output is high right now. We're powering this with 9 volts, by the way. So that voltage isn't written on here. This is just a basic schematic. So in any case, this is a bistable or a flip-flop circuit. And these are NAND gates, but we turned them into NOT gates. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, here you can see bistable. Output's going to stay high until I press this button. Then the output is low. Output's going to stay low. That's the two stable states, high and low, until I press the button. So it stays high until I force it low, and then stays low until I force it high. The circuitry itself is stable. It doesn't change unless I tell it to. The integrated circuit that I am using is the 4011 right there. And when you look at the part numbers, they got extra letters and stuff. But the main thing is that it's a 4011 integrated circuit, which is a quad 2-input NAND gate integrated circuit. So we got 4 NAND gates right there. That's what the quad means. You have to power the integrated circuit. I turned off power to the breadboard, but the positive supply to the top right there, VDD, and then 0 volts ground, or you could even use a negative voltage in relationship to ground, but we're going to stick with ground right there, is indicated by VSS right there. We are not going to use these 2 NAND gates. So we are tying their inputs to a supply voltage right there to protect the integrated circuit and also to prevent it from acting erratically. So we're tying the inputs there to lock them in place basically. We're going to use these 2 NAND gates, and you can see that I tied the 2 inputs together. When you have a NAND gate and their 2 inputs are tied together, it becomes a NOT gate. So now we'll do the step-by-step build. We have our 2 NAND gates that we turned to NOT gates, as we said before. And you can see one of the NOT gates now is connected to our load. And with these integrated circuits, if you have a load like LEDs, the LEDs may take too much power. And so just be aware of that. But for this video, we're okay. So I'm going to keep it hugged close to the integrated circuit. Put a little jumper there to our loads. A couple LEDs that will indicate whether the output for that NOT gate now, it's a NAND gate, but we turned it to a NOT gate, is high or low. Now, you can see that a basic part of this circuit. So NOT gates, if the input's high, output's low. If the input is low, the output is high. So we are making a little ring where it reinforces whatever the output already is. So let's imagine the output is high. It comes to the input of that one. So high translates to low. Output there. Low translate to high. So high, low, it reinforces it. And again, the opposite. We got low there. Then it will be turned into high there and low there. It helps lock it in place as long as something doesn't interrupt the signal. So that's what that capacitor is for. So in any case, we got the output of the NOT gate with the load. So that's how we're going to kind of keep track of things. One NOT gate, that is a NAND gate turned into a NOT gate, has the load. So we'll do that one first. We will bridge the gap from that output, going to the same spot there, down to the input of our other NOT gate right there, leaving space for a little jumper right there, because again, we have the output of the non-load NOT gate that's going to go to the input of the load in gate. And there we go. So yeah, got those 2 jumpers. That was my solution for that right there. So we got our ring all done right there. Now we come to the other connection. And by the way, a lot of people put dots wherever there's connections. It's really obvious that these are connections, and I don't want to draw dots all the time. If I do have a connection, there would be a jump. One wire would jump over the other, but I don't have any of those. So that's why I didn't put dots. I don't like dots as much as everybody else. I use the other system, which a lot of people hate. So this is a 10 nanofarad capacitor. Actually, let's continue on connecting where we have other connections we had to deal with. So we are coming to the inputs of the NOT gate that does not have a load, and that's going to one side of the switch. Doesn't really matter which side. but I think I kind of prefer to put it down at the bottom right there. And the other side of the switch now, since we just wired to the switch, is a 10 nanofarad capacitor. So I don't think the value of the capacitor really matters all that much, but we got 10 nanofarad, very common value. It says 1 0 and then 3, so 1 and 0, and then 3 more zeros, 10,000, that's in picofarads, which is the same as 10 nanofarad, or 0.01 microfarad, right there that I wrote. Didn't even notice that I wrote that to the side there till now. So there we go. We got the capacitor. When I'm making videos, I don't notice the diagrams as much as people watching it. Now, we just have one more connection. So we have the side of the switch where we have our capacitor. So we're going to bridge that with the output of the NOT gate that does not have a load. So that's kind of load attachment. That's kind of the simplest way. So now I'm going to turn the power on. I'm using 9 volts right there. We're going to come back to that. And there you can see we got the red LED lit up. And I'm refilming this scene actually. And last time I filled it, we had a low output when I turned the power on. But I also didn't have things connected. The resistor wasn't making a good connection. And so that might be why. But there we go. We have a low output, and now we have a high. So I don't know if it's always going to be high to start off when you first wire it or not. But in any case, there you can see. So again, we're working with 9 volts. Lamp is at the dimmest setting. I make the lamp brighter, and you can see it's harder to see the red LED. Very easy to see the blue, harder to see the red. Those are 1,500 ohm resistors, because that's what I used in my previous video. So I'll slide this over, and you can see I wrote down here that this integrated circuit works, the 4011 right there, works with 3 to 18 volts. And so we have a wide range of voltages we can work with. And so I used 1,500 ohm resistors at the output there, so that we could work with higher voltage. I also wrote here that you have more current available with a higher supply voltage. So this does not just output a certain amount of current that you can rely on. As the supply voltage goes lower, it can provide less current. So again, I designed these circuits a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure the problem I had was it doesn't really provide enough current to get a red LED bright at lower voltages, even if I use lower value resistors. At some point it will be the output limiting the current. But yeah, we can go down to 3 volts, and it's still working. You can see we got a glow right there. And recently I've been doing light dependent resistor based circuitry, so covering it affected the circuit. I kind of hesitated to do this now, but there you can see it's still flipping back and forth. So yeah, we could use this at 3 volts, powering a load. You know, not effective at 3 volts, but yeah, 5 volts. And then 9 volts is what we had. And as I showed before, there's a maximum of 18 volts, but I'm going to limit to 15 volts because we're using 1,500 ohm resistors. We're kind of pushing their limits, I think, wattage wise right now. So that's one reason why. Plus, I don't believe in, you know, setting the maximum voltage of integrated circuits unless they're made specifically for that voltage. A lot of these integrated circuits can only handle 5 volts, so be aware of that. Always check the data sheet for what the integrated circuit can handle. So yeah, we can go up to 15 volts though. So we have a very flexible circuit there. We could have a battery with a wide changing range of voltages, like a 12 volt battery. You know, it discharges down to maybe 10 volts, and then when you attach a charger, you know, it's like 14.6 volts for a lithium iron phosphate battery. And there you can see it's not affecting the circuit at all, except for in this case changing the LED brightness a little bit. So let's get back to about 9 volts, whatever. So yeah, 9.6, we'll keep it there. And I bumped the power supply, that's why it changed the signal. So yeah, we already talked about, we have this kind of a ring where I should have looked up the proper terminology beforehand, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you understand the basic principle. We have the high output, and then that turns to a low, and then to high. So it locks itself into place unless you interrupt the signal. So we have a capacitor right there. Now we got the high output, and that's coming. So this is the the voltage that we can interrupt with a sudden voltage change, the easiest. So a lot of times capacitors are used to prevent a sudden change of voltage from affecting the circuit. Here we have the opposite. So this is going to either charge or discharge the capacitor. Let's start with high. Then that becomes low right there. So it discharges the capacitor. It will get down to 0 volts through the 100K resistor, but it's a low value capacitor. So it'll be somewhat quick. And so we got high, low, discharge capacitor. You close the switch, instantly the input there, remember it's low there, high there, the input's going to see low when you close the switch, and set the output high. So it's instant right there. It's interrupting the signal, and the power coming out of there. It interrupts that briefly, but that's all it takes. So we did have high and then low, but this was low. Then we got low there briefly enough to set that high, and then that low. So that's what locks it in place. It sees that low, and it's going to hold it there till you open the switch, because we got the resistor. Then now that this is high, that's low, it starts charging the capacitor. So then it becomes high, low, right there, and then high over there. Close the switch, makes it high briefly enough that it sets the output low over there. Setting it high there, locking that high into place, even after we release the switch. So that's the basics of how it works. Pretty simple. It's a little bit confusing, just wiring up. So that's why you take a schematic diagram and carefully go through each node, making sure that you got all the connections to that one node before you move on to the next node, making sure all the connections line up, and so on.